Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between myself under the guise of Melon Lord leading the mighty Spirit of the Jungle up against Voril and the Bretonnian forces. Now this is a matchup which generally considered by most used to be absolutely abysmal for Bretonnia, but now that they've had a few changes and players have learnt the meta a little bit better, it is considered far more even. However, one old school thing that used to be a big bugbear in the closet for the Bretonnian forces was the Lizardmen Doom box. So we're going to be going old school and going for a little bit of a box build, but with our own twist. And our twist, of course, is going to come in the form of the greatest god of war to ever exist, the mighty NAKAI the Wanderer, wandering into battle with joyful glee at finally being picked in a game. NAKAI, considered by many to be one of the worst lords in the entire game, but there's a few things he does very well, and one of them is being in a nice tight box, because his abilities really help support that quite nicely. We have the Miasma of Despair, lowering speed, leadership and vigor of nearby enemies. We have the Primal Roar, which is incredibly powerful. Only lasts 17 seconds, but plus 40 melee attack and 22% physical resistance is crazy good. Plus we have the Golden Tributes for that perfect vigor. Now, it wouldn't be a Lizardmen Doom build, or box build in general, if it wasn't for a bucket ton of Temple Guard, and we're going to be coming in with the max we can have, which is the 3 here, 2 regular ones, as well as the Star Chamber Guardians, with their fantastic colour scheme. The beautiful kind of red eyes dotted in the black skulls are incredibly scary and ferocious for the Lizardmen to bring to the battlefield. We're also coming in with the Legion of Shaqua, regiment around Saurus Spearmen. These guys come with a really useful ability, Shield of Shaqua, giving that added 44% missile resistance, which is certainly going to be needed up against all those pesky peasant bowmen. We also have double bestowed on with Rev Crystals coming in to do some nice healing. In the back we have Lord KROAK on his floating chair, and a little Skink Priest of Heaven simply coming in with the humble harmonic convergence, looking to buff up NAKAI where possible. Of course, Lord KROAK coming in with his powerful abilities, like the Supreme Shield of the Old Ones and the Deliverance of Itza. But more importantly here we are coming with the Golden Death Mask. -9 melee attack to all enemies within 55 meters is really going to help out in our box formation. We also have some Chameleon Skinks though in Deep Vanguard. As for my opponent, we have the Wardens of Montfort here, regiment renowned mounted yeoman archers escorting a regular unit. We also have some Knights of the Realm dotted around the battlefield, as well as Quest Knights. Quest Knights taking the centre of the shine, with the Knights of the Realm on the flanks. Main battle line, of course, for any good Bretonnian build is a bucket ton of peasants dotted all the way along. We also have a load of peasant bowmen. These are the basic ones, no? Looks like we do have 1 or 2 pox arrows mixed in, but no fire ones, nothing too crazy, but still a solid amount to help deal with large dinos, as well as tightly packed formations. Double Barrel Pilgrims are going to be taken to the ground as well, looking to try to pin in our troops and do some nice damage and grind work. Alongside the mighty Faye the Enchantress, we have Double Paladin, and this is pretty typical stuff at the moment that you see from Bretonnians. You get both the Paladins, it looks like these guys do have the Guardian popped, and we have the Faye Enchantress with Regrowth, Earthblood, and Awakening the Wood, and the Chalice of Potions. Really solid stuff. I do myself prefer King Leon Learn Kerr in this matchup, but against my build, I think the Faye is going to be very deadly, coming with her Mortis style effect abilities. Nice little Awakening Wood attempt does go down, but it was cast a little bit too early. The Star Chamber Guardian's taking a minute amount of damage, although the bows do start singing, and that's certainly going to start to add up a little bit more. Now, I've gone relatively wide for a box. That's simply to try and apply pressure and break through and shut down the peasant bowmen where possible. So it's not a full box, but still pretty glorious stuff. The mighty Lord KROAK is going to be bulldozing his way into those Star Chamber Guardians and obliterating some peasants. They should find themselves feeling very lucky that they do get the honour of being obliterated by Lord KROAK, in my humble opinion. We do try to time a Deliverance of Itza so we can catch some Question Knights and Peasant Bowmen at the same time. Looks like some of those pesky peasants are actually pinning in some of their own Question Knights, and a big boom comes down. A shower of blood and spit lands on the battlefield as the main engagement does get underway. Question Knights will be getting slaughtered though by NAKAI and the Bastildons. There's just too much pressure. Now my opponent is doing something really brilliant here. If we have a nice overarching view of the battlefield, not only is he pouring fire in on my main blob, which is doing some good work, but he's also isolating 1 unit of Temple Guard, which has find itself fallen back a little bit from the main push. And now he's jumped in with the Fae, Paladins, as well as Knights of the Realms. We're really trying to break these guys as quickly as possible, and dropping a nice little comet down on the Star Chamber Guardians. NAKAI is bounding forward with glee like a happy puppy, trying to chase his own tail. He's going to be pushing forward onto the peasant bow line, although it looks like some rather brave Question Knights are going to meet his charge head on, like all brave knights should do. NAKAI comes in with a bit of a pounding, but at the same time, big old thump down there, going to be rocking some of those Question Knights in their saddle, and his ever loyal Bastildons and Temple Guard are now going to be starting to catch up. Primal Roar has gone down, and as well as Supreme shielded the old ones, meaning the Bastildon with Rev Crystal and the Kai should be enough to fend off the Questing Knights. And in the back you can see double Peasant Bowmen have been forced off, one Peasant Bowman and one unit of Peasant Mobs who have indeed been shattered. Questing Knights continue to fall back at this point. The sneaky little Skink Priest is going to be used to hunt down Battle Pilgrims where possible, and another Deliverance is going to come down on these Knights of the Realm. And I'm mainly doing the middle Deliverance. I think it's certainly the best one value for Winds of Magic wise, because as you can see, it does obscene, absolutely absurd, insane damage. We're even terrifying away some of these Knights now. Both units of Knights are in big trouble. Both the Paladins are getting in there, down and dirty. In the distance, the Legion of Shakwa are holding back 3 units, which is pretty useful for me to stop the rest of our formation from being completely swarmed. And these guys are going to get in there, whipping their tails and using their mighty spears to skewer peasants where possible. There's a blood on the ground as well, and the Bretonnia forces are in pretty big retreat. NAKAI is wandering a little far away from my formation now in a desperate attempt to get on the Peasant Bowman, but we are close to our prey, but I decide to actually fall back here as my opponent is whipping around the flanks with the Paladin and Fey Enchantress, so I didn't want to get isolated away from our glorious little blob which has formed, which is Temple Guard, Star Chamber Guardians, both the Bastildons, Lord KROAK, and now Mazdamundi, and even the Chameleon Skinks shall be joining it in an effort to find refuge from the ever kind of watchful Paladin and Fey who are desperately trying to hunt them down. Chameleon Skinks, though, are going to be floating out to the right-hand side. Now they can do some really nice blowpipe damage onto the Peasant Bowmen, who are going to be taking considerable damage over the course of the next few minutes. As Chameleon Skinks start to rack up those kills, NAKAI the Wanderer and the Temple Guard will also be trying to join the pursuit of the Peasants, because at this point, balance power is slightly in my favour. One big problem we have, though, is these archers can basically single-handedly win my opponent the game if we don't shut them down. So I'm going to be trying to pressure them where possible. Unfortunately, though, my opponent is really well on top of his micro. A beautiful Awakening of the Wood goes down, catches a lot of my units, and a lot of people don't know this, but it actually slows you down by 48% speed, which is really nasty stuff. And my opponent always trying to find where I've overextended or left a unit behind. Originally hunting down the Bastildons, now going after Lord KROAK and NAKAI's booty. So we are going to have to pull them back a little bit. Chameleon Skinks are attempting to support, poisoning the Fey, doing some really nice damage. And now the Bastildons are nearby as well. Supreme Shield of the Old Ones goes down by Lord KROAK, giving a ridiculous 44% damage resistance. Which is so lovely, and Fey Enchantress has been forced off, although both the Paladins are now in a rather sticky situation. My opponent trying to focus down NAKAI where possible, take that leadership off the field, but those Rev Crystals are coming into action, hitting them up a nice 624 hit points, certainly not too shabby. Big Deliverance going down now on the Peasants in the back line, and oh my gosh, once again, skulls, blood, flesh, all of it feeding the ground as the Peasants decide to run in fear and terror. I certainly do not blame them whatsoever. NAKAI the Wanderer is getting desperately low though, falling back now through the Temple Guard and the Star Chamber Guardians, which of course will be giving him guards in, and it looks like one of those big comets is going to strike from the skies, but luckily for me is going to completely miss. Now we pop the Primal Roar, giving us that increased 40 melee attack, which is pretty insane. 57 melee attack on the Rev Crystal. I believe NAKAI the Wanderer gets over 100, actually up to exactly 100 melee attack. Now it doesn't last too long, and of course if you have taken a bit of damage you will indeed rampage, but still it has allowed us to really shut down those Paladins who are now both terrified and slowly getting forced away. Chameleon Skinks though continuing to pepper them as they retreat. In the back lines, the Legion of Shakwa did manage to defeat the unholy number of peasants that were launched at them, up to 223 kills. These guys now trying to push and drive into the back lines on top of those peasant bowmen to shut them down. Looks like they're getting a little caught up, but they will be slowly moving their way over here as the Paladins do decide to retreat. Wardens have used up all their ammunition, as have the mounted yeoman archers, driving forward now in a desperate attempt to hold back the Dino Scaly Tide. In the distance, you can see our forgotten skink priests hunting down some battle pilgrims, having a whale of a time. They're having their own little separate skirmish over in the distance. Legion of Shakwa come in with some really cool attack animations, and the jumps and spins are so cool, launching those spears into the ground and just doing flying kicks to the face of the enemy, whipping those tails around and doing some really good work. Also, unfortunately for my opponent here, the Fey Enchantress has kind of been stuck up against them. Shield of Shakwa has gone down, and we have that lovely anti-large. The Fey not having a good day whatsoever. Lord KROAK is battling double Paladins, but has the support of the Bastildons here, so he shouldn't be in too bad shape. still up to 2,900 health. And NAKAI just slams into the rear of the Fey Enchantress. Miasma of Despair goes down. She gives up all hope and decides to be shattered and flee from the battle. A close victory, a really fun game. We actually had a considerable number of our units left on the board by the end of this, but they were very, very beat up, particularly NAKAI, and if he had fallen, we would have been in a world of trouble. Very well played to my opponent Voril. I apologise for this type of build. I know some people really hate facing the box builds, but I don't play it too often and really wanted to bring it back, and I don't use Temple Guard anywhere near enough as I should do, so I certainly wanted to bring them into the fray. Now this build can actually be kind of funny and relatively okay. I would definitely cut the Skink Priest in future, simply because all of my Winds of Magic, of course, are going to be used with the mighty Lord KROAK, but likewise we could drop him and increase the build size slightly more, maybe some Salamanders or an Ancient Salamander in that central pocket being protected by the wall of Temple Guard. Either way, a really fun one, and I've been using this as well up against a multitude of factions on Quick Battle recently and had some pretty good success as well. I will go through the damage value and damage stats in just a second. Hope you guys enjoyed though. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We have some really exciting stuff coming up. In fact, tonight, I believe at 10 PM BST, it's either 9 or 10, I will put a message out on my YouTube community page, as well as in my Discords. We have Falcon facing up against Saphir in the Warhammer World Championships, being live streamed here on the channel. That is a clash of titans. Going to be a really good, fun game to cast. And you can, keep up to date. Down below, there are links to my Discord where you can keep up to date, as well as get involved in the tournament scene, semi-replays, and all that good stuff. There's also a link to my Patreon down there if you would like to support the channel in any other way and gain access to some special events that will be coming up. So anyway though, on to the glorious damage value, and of course, we've got to start with our boy, Lord KROAK. 183 kills, 2,690 damage value, really awesome stuff from him. Luckily managed to catch some of those knights and peasant archers, and honestly, the peasant archers, they're not worth too much, but they were an absolute necessity for my opponent to keep alive, so shutting them down with Lord KROAK certainly was a big help. Plus the Supreme Shield of the Old Ones works absolute wonders with tightly compact builds such as this one. As I said before, Skink Priest would probably cut him here because I don't think he did too much, and I don't think his harmonic convergence is really needed. NAKAI is too powerful on his own, coming in with a whopping 1,190 damage value. Not, insane stuff, but don't worry, there is currently a challenge going on over on my Discord to get the most damage value with NAKAI, so we'll be seeing him later in the week anyway, and oh boy, can he get some good value. But 40 kills nonetheless is relatively solid, plus the miasma and his other buffs are really lovely and useful in such builds. Leadership Squad did a good job cleaving their way through the chaff, as well as getting on top of some key targets in the end, like the Bowman and the Fey Enchantress. 18k damage dealt, 259 kills, 1,692 damage value. Temple Guard across the board did relatively okay, not outstanding though. 836 damage value here, the other one 891, although the Star Chamber Guardians, despite they did get hit by a very well placed comet by my opponent, still managed to get 1,325 damage value, 8,856 damage dealt, 100 solid kills, plus giving that Guardian to NAKAI, which without that he certainly would have died here. I like the little sneaky unit of Chameleon Skinks being included in a build like this. Your opponent doesn't often expect, and they can come out of nowhere and really do some nice harass. And these guys performed really well. 1,175 damage value, not too shabby whatsoever, doing some nice damage to the Fae throughout the battle. Both the Rev Crystals doing a little bit disappointing damage value-wise, 762 and 389, but that's not what they were here for. They were to heal up the troops and allow the rest of the build to carry. As for my opponent, the Fey Enchantress, as always, did relatively solid, 1,700 damage value herself. Very good in this type of matchup, big comets, and as well all the healing that can come into effect. The Paladins really struggled. They were desperately trying to dive in on top of key targets, which I liked quite a lot, and something my opponent did very well was isolating targets, and any time anything was slightly out of position for me, he was snappy straight onto it and salivating at the mouth to really kind of, get his teeth sunk in onto such units. Now you can see he did butcher one unit of Temple Guard off the rip and nearly assassinated NAKAI multiple times. But Paladins, unfortunately, were up against so many Temple Guard who really did struggle. Peasants and Battle Pilgrims really struggled across the board. Peasant Bowmen doing a little bit better though, 440 damage value here, 324, 608 and 497. The Mighty Knights coming in with the glorious Lance formation, but not faring too well. Knights of the Realm, 523 damage value, 236. Oh my god, that's really terrible. Probably the ones though that got hit early on by the big boom of Lord KROAK. 717 damage value, 583 on the 2 Question Knights. Mounted Yeomen managed to use up all their ammunition and get some relatively decent stats as well. 735 damage value, 845 on this other unit, which you don't often get to see the Wardens, so it's always cool to see them in action. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.